Welcome to Soulful Living. It's great to see you here again, and I'm very excited to go through a Soulful Living mentoring session with George from the States. He comes from Mexico, but he lives in Los Angeles, and so he and I are going to go through what it's like to have to go through a breakup. Well, for him it is. So I'm delighted to introduce to you George. Hello, George.
Hi. Hi, nice to
It's
see you.
great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's been a very interesting week to say the least.
Oh, I can't wait to hear all about it. So our topic today is going to be, I've known you, as you know, for some time. We've known each other for some time, and there have been some emotions and things that you've had to go through. And it's always a difficult period when one has to go through looking for a relationship, and then when one goes through breakups. So I'd love you to share with everyone what it's been like for you and how you felt that mentoring has helped you, or coaching, if you like, in terms of a breakup.
Yeah.
So I shall hand
Um,
it over to you.
yeah. Well, I think obviously for me, I do like men. I'm gay, so it is a bit harder or a bit, harder to explain in a way that's generalized for everyone. So, I'll try my best to make it so, it applies to everyone. I think now, like, dating in this time frame now, or like this era, is completely different from what it was, 10, 20 years ago with dating apps and everything. It's crazy. Like, you can have like 20 guys at the same time, and then none of them will talk to you. And then one of them will pick you. And then you start going on dates with them and you have a lot of fun, and then nothing, you know? And I think that in a in a time where we all crave that love and affection from, media. We see movies a lot of the time. They have like, these big romances and like, you're like, I want that, whatever they have. And then you have a little bit of it, a morsel of it, and then you get it taken away. And that's when you start realizing that a lot of what you're missing in reality isn't a relationship, but instead it's more to do with yourself, right? And I think that's what being mentored by you has been very enlightening, right? Because um in a difficult time where you're like, I really want this person but they don't want me, or oh, this person doesn't really understand me, or why do I feel this way in my own body because of a person? I think what you have taught me and what have like, helped me come to realize is that I need to really focus on myself, right? And I know when you talk about that, it's like very like, yeah, of course, work on yourself, to be in a relationship, right? You want to be at your best, right? To be with someone else. But I think there's a misconception between um, being with someone in the sense of where we make one person, to being individuals who come together and make life so much more beautiful, right? And I think that's something that I have, you've kind of like, touched on with me. And I think again, it has been such a great experience knowing you just in general, right? When I was in London for the time it was great. Like, I used to talk about all these crazy things. And it's definitely interesting, and I don't know what you can say about it, but to see my progression, at least personally, from the first relationship I've ever talked to you about to the most recent ones, right? And yeah, I think just having you as a mentor and like as a person in my life to help me has been truly like a blessing, and I don't know what I would have done without you.
Well, that's very kind. That's very, very kind of you to say, George. That's very sweet of you. Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that you identified with, which was quite beautiful in one way, but not very good for you, was that difference of just having a, a passing relationship, if you like, but one that really gets you, and you feel that big sense of love and then suddenly it's not there anymore, and you're brokenhearted, and it's like, what happened? You might not have even known that person that long, but that chemistry and that, you know, interaction was so beautiful. And it's that I really would have loved you to have shared with the audience, how you got over it, or what you felt, in fact, during that period of time.
Yeah, so, one of the more recent relationship dynamics I was in, it's interesting, you start off, right? For me, I'm always the type of person, well, I'll match your energy, right? If you don't seem interested, I'm not gonna continue pursuing anything, it's move on to the next person. But, it starts off like that, and then, this other person, um, he decided to continue, like, texting me or asking me for my number, he wanted to go on a second date. I wasn't gonna ask him on a second date. I was like, he doesn't seem interested. I'm not gonna, my ego's too high for that sometimes, but, he asked me on a second date. He asked me, like, if you wanna hang out again. I'm like, "Okay, sure, why not? Let's do it." And after time, it's interesting because, obviously, I'm just kinda, like, there. Obviously, I'm interested, but I'm not, like, fully invested yet. And then maybe,
Mm.
like, a couple dates in, I get invested, and then oh, did my camera freeze? Oh, there we go. A couple days in, or dates in, um, you start getting invested into it, you're like, "Oh, I actually really do like hanging out with this person, I like being with this person." But I think something that, uh, I always knew internally was that, like, my body always kinda knew and kind of felt like, anxious in a way, like, if he didn't text for, like, an hour or 2, I'd be like, "Oh my god, like, he hates me, like, oh my god, like, he doesn't want me," you know? And then when he would text me back, I'm like, "Oh," like, it all went away, like, it was relief, right? And I think after getting that anxious and, like, that push and pull, I started to grow, an attraction for this person, and then, after a while, it didn't end up going anywhere, it just, took him a bit to realize that he didn't really want it, and I told him, and thanks to, what the work we've done, um, not that you can't cry or that you can't show your feelings because I think that is a very beautiful, vulnerable side of everyone, but, you know, I decided, if you don't like it, then, I feel I can honor that feeling that you have because at the end of the day, we're all trying to figure ourselves out, right? And what I did in person was just like, "Okay, that's fair, like, why do you feel that way?" And
Mm.
then he told me why, and I left. I left, I was like, well, I hugged him. I was like, "Well, it's been fun," and then I left. Truth is, after that, I bawled, well, I cried, like, for, like,
I
hours, right? I
know.
went straight to my friend, and it was a hard time for me just because I put so much time and energy into something that I kinda knew wasn't working out, but still wanted it to work out because I found an interest for this person, and yeah, I think coping again, like, with the whole topic being how do you get over a breakup like that, where you're, like, kinda out of it, and then all of a sudden you get sucked into it. Um, Honestly, the from what, we've talked about is just it's more than just focusing on yourself, it's more being able to accept your feelings and also push past them, right? It's not about villainizing anyone, or it's not always about,
No.
having to say someone isn't worth it or someone, didn't deserve your time because at the end of the day, those memories that you created with that person, um, those are beautiful memories that you created, right? And at that moment, in
Yeah.
that moment, you were happy or whatever if you were feeling, right? You had those feelings from that moment, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to go back and remember those memories and feel happiness, right? Or feel
Yeah.
whatever it is you're feeling. Um, Yeah, I think the only way to get through it is to push through it, right? It isn't to repress your feelings, instead to acknowledge and to really, validate yourself, right?
But we thank you for that, because that was really good to share that. But I wanted to also to go over which emotions they are, to identify them. So there
Mm,
was that, when he said to you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when he said to you he didn't want the relationship to go any further, you were really quite shocked at that time as well.
Mm.
And there was a feeling of abandonment within you. And that was quite, wow, that. And you had felt something very deep with him when you were in the relationship, but there were little things that were not gelling, if you like, with him. So
Mm.
could you open up a little bit more about that side of the process you went through to, to go through that? What helped you to get
Yeah.
over the relationship?
Yeah, so initially, um, he texted me, he's like, "Oh, can we call?" I'm like, "Sure," like, "Oh, am I in trouble?" Like, "What happened?" And so he didn't respond, so in my head, I'm like, "Oh, crap, this is gonna go really bad really soon." So, I driving over to, 'cause I told him, "If this is a conversation I should have in person, then I should, maybe you should wait till we're together," right? So I drove over to his place, and I called my friend immediately. I'm like, "I know it's gonna go bad." Get nervous, right, as you get invited inside and you
Yeah.
sit down and you start talking about it and you're like, "Oh, okay, like, what's going on?" Like, I'm just acting
Mm-hmm.
normal, right? And then the words come out, "Oh, like, we're not compatible." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." At that moment, you just blank, right? You don't immediately feel anything. You just kind of sit with it for, like, a second, and then immediately after, you feel it, right? You feel this big wave of just I wouldn't even say sadness, it's more confusion, right? Because at that moment, you're just kind of like, "What the heck?" Right? Like, it's been,
Mm-hmm.
like, how long? And, like, what do you mean we're not compatible, you know what I mean? Um, but yeah, you feel that a little bit of sadness, you feel a little bit of confusion, you feel a little angry, right? Because you're like, "What the what the heck?" Like, what's going on? And then it doesn't really hit you all because you still have that shock. You're like, "Okay, well, that just happened." And then you finish the conversation and you get into your car or you leave that space with that person, and then it all hits, right? The second I hit the end of the street, I was bawling. I started screaming and like a maniac, hitting my steering wheel like, "Ah!" And I called my friend immediately and I told her like, "Oh, I don't it just happened, because it's crazy too. Because that same morning, I called the same friend. I'm I just feel like something in my body tells me it's over, right? I don't know, like, I just kept
Mm-hmm.
on saying that phrase, "It's over, it's over, it's over," right? And it just felt so weird, and that's, the synchronicities and that intuition that you have, um, that immediately that same day, it was over. And,
Yeah.
again, you go to your friend, you cry, and you start thinking about so many things, right? For me, it was like, "Oh, like, this reminds me of a lot of certain points in my life where I felt the same way," right? Similar feelings, similar reactions where you're like, "This reminds me of this when I was, like, young, when I was, like, 10, or when I was
Mm-hmm.
in, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, in class with my teacher yelling at me for not, doing good in a math test," right? Like, things like that, those, like, similarities between that present moment to past moments in your life that, connect in that way, it really makes you feel like, "Oh my god, this is a pattern," right? Or sometimes you start feeling like, "What," why is this connecting, So
Can I
it's
just go
definitely a
over
roller
that?
coaster emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. There was just one point you made there that I just wanted to intervene if you didn't mind. And that was that
Of course.
part where you said about the maths, because that's a different emotion altogether. That the emotion of you didn't feel good enough.
Yeah. Yeah, again, like, let's
So,
say,
so that's another one. I'm trying to identify back with you now because
yeah,
we've been through it before. So there was the abandonment, but there was also the feeling of not being good enough with
yeah,
that
yeah,
person. And that's
mhm,
giving away your power. And as you rightly say, bringing back your power to yourself and
yeah,
empowering yourself with, but I'm a person, and maybe the compatibility from the logical mind. was saying, well, we're not compatible, but the emotion for you was really killing inside.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, again, the logic was, "Oh, like, that's sure, why yeah, I guess you're right, we aren't compatible logically in that sense," but, more in a deeper emotional connection, I felt like I was compatible, right? I felt very safe, I felt very wanted and needed, and again, like what
Yeah.
you said, that abandonment fear of, like, this person can leave me at any time. I'm not good enough,
Mm,
right? I don't feel like, this person really cares about me because he won't hold my hand, right, in public.
yeah.
There's other things like why why is he saying like he starts saying random little things like calling you babe and then like, being awkward about it. And it's like, oh, like, are you awkward? Are you iffy about me? Are you undecisive about what you want with me? It's like all those little micro, for me at least, micro reactions and those, all those little adjustments that I notice in people that, again, makes me feel very powerful because I'm like, oh, I understand people and I feel like I'm
Yeah.
usually right about a lot of things, but it also, again,
Mm,
it's my downfall because I start overanalyzing everything and I'm like, "Oh, shoot, like, he didn't text me immediately like how he usually does, like, he hates me, like, I'm gonna go, like,
yeah.
like, I have to
Yeah.
text him, like, a bunch so he can respond," so, yeah. The math testing was just an example because again, it is different for everyone, for your how you've
Mm,
lived your life and what has gone through in your life, but uh,
exactly.
for me, again, it's like, it's just those that feeling, it's not really describable, you really have to go through it to, like, understand it, and if you are going through it, um, again, the best thing to do, at least what I found for me, was to correlate, right? What other times have I felt this way,
Mm,
and why do I feel this way because of these situations? What is the context that is making me feel these emotions, and how is that really a reflection about me? Is that really me, or is that, an external force forcing something onto me, Um, a lot I am a firm believer in, um, all the trauma that we go through in our youth and in our adolescence that, it really affects how we grow up in our confidence, our social circles, how we interact with the world. And
mhm.
again, it's correlating those feelings to I felt sad this exact same type of sad when I was 10 in math class, right? Why is it
Yeah.
that this relationship is reminding me of that teacher yelling at me, right? Is it because again, like, do I feel like internally am I affirming this belief that I'm not good enough? Or is it
Mhm.
because I'm really not good enough? And at the end of the day, it's never because you're not good enough, right? It's always because, we value a lot of the perception that other people have on us, rather than valuing the perception that we have on ourselves.
Exactly. So now can we just move into how you actually got over it? So you're saying you spoke about it to a friend. We spoke about it at great length. And can you sort of give us a little bit of a process in which you were able to go through and say, oh, that's a relief. I'm feeling easier about myself now.
With my first relationship, I'll take it to that one because I have finally gotten over that one, but,
Yes.
um, my first relationship, that one was just a messy relationship. Um, I won't lie to you, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time and a lot of reaffirming beliefs, these positive beliefs about yourself that are all, the truth, right? Like, I am good enough.
Mhm,
I am,
mhm,
confident. I am, pretty. I am cute, whatever, right? Whatever it is that you wanna be, you are, right?
mhm.
There's no one in this world stopping you from being whatever you wanna be, right? So, again, it takes a lot of time, and during those times, I think, the first month is definitely, like, one of the hardest, right? Because you're again, it's like the 5 steps of, denial or grief or whatever, and you're just, like,
Yeah.
first month in, you're, like, sad, right? You go through this, like, little depressive state, and you're like, "Oh, I don't wanna do anything. I don't wanna do anything. I just wanna stay at home." You stop really communicating the same way with your friends, with your family, and, again, it's different for everyone, but for me, it's been like that, and, um, it sucks because, all these people are showing you love, you have this little village of people that are truly there for you, and all you wanna do is, um, cry and be sad about this one guy who does not care for you, right? Clearly, and, it's like, oh, it's a really hard thing to get through because in that moment, you feel like you can't get through it, but I promise you, you will get through it, right? You just gotta keep on going, right? The second month is always it gets easier a little bit. Second month I've found in my experiences has always been for me the overthinking stage, right? But what if, what if I change this? Or what if I like, put do little things like his Instagram story or like his Instagram post or comment on it? Or what if I go, if you're in the same proximity or you know where he's at, what if I pass by him and I say hi? All those little what ifs that go through your head that you may or may not take action on, right? That's the second month you start overthinking a lot. And that's been my experience as an anxious, attachment style, type person. Um, the third month, it definitely gets a little easier than that, but also harder in different ways, right? It's more of a
Mm,
ah, screw you. Like, I'm finally better, but deep down inside, you know that feeling for that person is always there, right? I think the one misconception as well, like, is a lot of my friends would be like, "Just don't think about it," or "He wasn't a good guy for you," or
mm,
"He's an a-hole," or, all these negative things. And in
mm,
reality, it's not unless he was truly like, like doing something crazy, like, crazy bad,
yeah.
then maybe, yeah, it's a good thing to villainize him. But a lot of the times for these like little moments in your life where you meet people, it's more of a it just, they're trying to figure themselves out as well, right? At the end of the day, they're not a monster, they're human. Maybe this
Mhm,
person in my experiences, these people to me haven't been as developed, I guess. And, I don't wanna sound like egotistic or anything, but, like, in that sense, like, developed, relationship experience, or a lot of the time what I've seen in my dating life, maturity, right? Because a lot of the time these people just want to, just get the candy and then leave, like, they don't really wanna stay for the whole cake. So so, yeah, a lot of the time they lack those things, and that's okay because we all lack those things at one point of our lives, right? And I'm sure we've disappointed a lot of people in our past while we were learning, and
mhm,
we wouldn't want them to, like, hate us, right? So why would we want to
no,
necessarily hate anyone else, right? I think something that you've helped me realize is, like, I shouldn't have to hate him. I think there's beauty in loving someone, right? And that's not like, like, "Oh my god, I'm falling in love, I'd meet him," not like that, but, like, again, giving yourself to someone, I think there's beauty in that, and really understanding that, your time is precious and your care and affection is valuable, and no matter who you give it to, those people are very lucky. And end of the day, when you look back in your memories and, you think about all those times you drove someone on a date, or you took them out just because you knew they were having a bad day, or you paid, right? At the end of the day that you did the right thing, you showed your love, and you know that's the
mhm,
best feeling ever, right? Because you know that you don't have any regret, right, or anything left to say. And something that you told me to do was to go talk to him, right? And a lot of
mhm.
people I immediately I'm like, "What the heck? Like, what do you think I am? Like, I'm not gonna go do that. What the" but, um, yeah, going up to him and just kinda explaining like, "Hey, like, I so care about you as a person. I don't, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and be like, 'I hate you. Like, you ruined my life.' Like, no, you didn't. Like, you're just trying to figure yourself out, and, unfortunately, like, you're just not the person that, I'm not the person you want in your life."
So when that feeling comes into you of remembering the memory within your heart, it's good to put that into a compartment within your heart and say, you've given it the closure because you went back and you closed it with him. and you closed it also for yourself. So there will be the memory of the things that you did enjoy with him that you will be taking with you, looking to find it in another relationship. Because it's that part of you, that your inspiration of who you are, wants to be able to feel that way again. It's the loss, it's a loss when you've had a very beautiful relationship and you're still thinking of them, because there are memories of what you shared. But you grow within yourself and you're able to use that information for the mistakes that you made in your own relationship, to take that forward and cherish them, but to have gratitude of who you are, that you were able to understand it rather than to be resentful of it.
Yeah.
And I admire that. I really admire that in you.
Oh,
And especially because you're young. Because a lot of people are very grudging when the relationship is over, and you've been able to close it for him as well as for yourself. And you've been able to go through each step, which we've not done completely in a podcast, to be at peace with it, but also to be in gratitude and to go through your learning process, which is what you're doing, to move on to the next stage.
Yep.
So with
And
that,
again,
I'm
you learn from it. Sorry.
gone. Stay with us. Gone.
I was gonna say, yeah, and like again, from each experience, again, rejection is redirection. It truly is. Each time you, even if it's like a very simple, like one-time date, you always are capable of learning from it. From what I've been through. I actually just went on a date like recently, and you might learn the most like minuscule, like insignificant things that truly help you in the long run, right? Like I learned that
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to like I don't have to drive everywhere. Like the more the bigger ones I've learned was like I don't have to chase anyone. People come to me. I don't find it that's I don't find a need to like go chasing anyone anymore. Like you shouldn't. I don't think you should. I think that like you shouldn't have to put more effort than another person all the time, right? I think there's a balance in that. That's a bigger thing. But again, you
That's
learn from your
another
experiences
subject.
and you learn from
Mm-hmm.
your experiences and you take that on to whoever is truly supposed to be for you. And each time you go through something that you learn from, you're one step closer to finding that person that is truly meant for you and being able
Yeah.
to be that person that can make you know connection really last and be as meaningful as it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to say thank you so much for that. You shared so much information. We're going to bring it to a close. You'll find me on Spotify and on Apple Podcast as well. Please leave your comments of what you would like to share. And we look forward next time to seeing you again. Take care for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye for now. Bye, George. See you in a
Bye.
moment.